And welcome back, everybody, to Power Hour. I am your host, Jim Breslo, where we interview people in politics on all sides of the spectrum. And we got a great one today who says that her group is all about being in the middle and bringing everyone together, something that America desperately needs. And Holly Page of No Labels is here to talk about their efforts thus far to bring America together, perhaps joining some type of third party. Holly, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Jim, for having me.
I want to be careful about describing No Labels because I'm generally familiar with it, but I better leave that to you to describe exactly what No Labels is and what it stands for.
Well, we are a national organization of Americans all over the country who come from what we call the Commonsense majority. We span the political spectrum, really, and it's a group of people who want to see more of our elected representatives in Washington, occasionally putting the interests of the country before the party.
So well put, and I think everybody can kind of agree with that. But it's interesting, you're basically describing Trump's party right now, or the Republican Party, whatever you want to call it these days, the America First movement. They certainly are talking all about common sense, and they're talking all about country before party, because I think we'd all pretty much agree that Trump doesn't seem to really be that concerned about the Republican Party per se. He has changed that party quite a bit. The party has kind of come in line with him, but he's all about America first, not Republican Party first, and all about common sense.
I would say he's about his Republican Party, his priorities and his ideas, which he should be. But we really believe that it's not so much that the common sense majority all agree on one set of ideas or one set of values. It's, in fact, we disagree, yet we have to come together to govern ourselves because we do have a fairly evenly split country. 50% kind of, see the world from the center left, and 50%, or maybe 49% the center left, and 51% the center right. But yet we have to find a way to move forward. And so No Labels is about encouraging and rewarding the ability to talk to people who maybe come from a different point of view and finding the common ground. That whole concept, which is second nature to any part of life, it's how you have to navigate a marriage, a relationship, is actually vilified in Washington. You get punished for it. And you get rewarded the more extreme you are, the more aligned to the party you are.
But is it possible that Trump has at least taken the Republican Party in your direction? And let me say this way, if he's not right down the line on typical Republican principles. If you look at foreign policy, he's more isolationist than Republican Party has been. On tariffs, that's usually a Democrat thing that's more pro-tariffs. When it comes to Medicare and Social Security, he says, I absolutely won't refuse to touch that, et cetera. When it came to his policies during COVID, I didn't think that he was objecting particularly to lockdowns. He handed things over to Fauci. He was handing out $1,000 checks to everybody. So he seems to be more of a centrist, analyzing each issue without ideology or loyalty to party, but more on an issue by issue basis, applying at least what he calls common sense. We always debate what common sense is in any particular issue, but he uses that phrase all the time. So is it possible that you're staring your solution in the face in Donald Trump, but perhaps not wanting to see it?
Well, no doubt about it. President Trump has reorganized the political debate, political alliances. I think he's been a terrific breath of fresh air in thinking about the challenges facing a lot of hardworking Americans in a different way. So no doubt about it. But his political way is to basically say my way or the highway, which he has the right to do. I think we'd advocate for the idea that there might be some wisdom and some truth in the other side of his political line, and that it would be beneficial to help find the common ground. And I'll give you a great example. we have to be really concerned about the federal debt. Okay. Every single expert, military, historian will tell you that the debt is what takes down great societies. The debt is the greatest, threat to our military. And yet, we're looking at a potential increase in the debt by the extension of the tax credits. I'm not saying don't extend the tax credits. I'm saying there has to be some conversation about that. I think we need to do what I think he's doing a terrific job of with Doge, which is looking for where to cut, absolutely. But nonetheless, we know that no matter how much waste and abuse they find, and I'm sure they'll find a lot, it will not make up for the $4 trillion that could be added with the tax cuts being made permanent. We're political realists. We understand nobody likes taxes, but we just want to give voice to Americans out there who don't fit neatly into one political party box or the other, and just really want what's best for the country.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm sure we'll come back to Trump. It's inevitable, but tell me more specifically, I guess, what exactly you guys are trying to achieve. In other words, are you trying to be potentially a third party, or are you just trying to persuade the other two parties to come more to the middle? What specifically are you trying to achieve?
We're not a third party. We had an effort in the last election to potentially offer a third choice for president, but we're not a third party, and we have allies in the House and Senate, and we have a national network of citizens. Those citizens come together to just really reward, encourage and support members of the House and Senate who are willing to sit down on a regular basis, talk to the other side, and find legislative compromises where there's common ground. Because truly, without us, no one else rewards that. You get punished if you talk to the other side. You get punished if you basically find solutions that maybe give up a little bit of your ground for the sake of the greater good. Those are all disincentivized in Washington. And yet it is the way our government was structured.
Mm-hmm. So is it more about getting the two sides to communicate more and work together more and find common ground, as opposed to a specific policy agenda that No Labels has?
Yeah, exactly. We are not a policy shop, and we don't impose our worldview on the members of the House and Senate who are our allies, other than to say we are stewards of this great nation, and we need to be thinking longer than the next election about some of the issues that we have to face, like the debt is a great one.
Mm-hmm. And as you look at the two parties today, is there one party that you think is being more obstructionist in working with the other side than the other?
I think actually, thanks to President Trump, the Republicans have reinvented and reimagined themselves, and that they are now a political force for the modern era, right? And I come out of the Democratic Party. I worked for Bill Clinton, but I don't think the Democrats have done that yet. I think they're still fighting the last war. All of their ideas seem to be of yesteryear, their alliances. So I don't even think they're obstructionist. I think they're not even playing the same game, actually, that President Trump is playing.
Interesting. Well, let's keep going on that. I mean, what I see, and this happens on both sides, but right now the Democrats are in that position where it's just kind of knee-jerk oppose everything that the president is for. So Doge is out there finding all kinds of waste, fraud, and abuse. The public seems to be supporting it. Who would possibly support waste, fraud, and abuse? Yet the Democrats are out there railing against it. Now, I think they've been. I think I watch a lot of Fox News, even though I watch all of them because you got to see what all sides are saying. But I'm more of a Fox guy, of course. And arguably, what they're opposing is the approach that Doge is taking, as opposed to seeking out waste, fraud, and abuse. But the example I always cite is Chuck Schumer. He did this in 2016, and he's doing it again now. He's a New Yorker.
Mm-hmm.
He and Trump come from the same ilk. They've known each other forever. I'm sure Trump has given to many of his campaigns. He so easily in 2016 and then again now, I think, could have done a Tip O'Neill type of thing and come into the White House, sat down in the Oval Office. Trump loves being seen as a guy that can speak to all sides. And some would argue he can sometimes be easily played with flattery, which Chuck Schumer could be going in there and flattering him. And Trump would love to be this, he loves to be seen as the potential peacemaker here on Ukraine and Israel. And I think he would love to be seen as a no labels type president who was able to work with the other side. But the Chuck Schumer just does knee jerk everything negative.
Well, listen, I think, it remains to be seen how much the president really wants to work with the other side. And, as we as we approach the March 14th deadline for funding the government, there is signals that would like to be done from the White House just with Republican votes. But, it is the slimmest majority in the House since 1931. So even if ideologically you're not aligned with no labels, it's math. And there are Democrats who are actually engaging in the process to figure out where they can realistically get to support some of the president's initiatives. But you're right. As a party, the Democrats have been built up over the last several years, really defined as just opposing President Trump, and that's not good enough. Because the American people spoke, they elected him clearly. And so I think you're right. It is a matter of adapting to this new reality that the president, is very ambitious and energetic and has a lot of things coming out. And what's the right line to draw of support and encouragement and going along, and then the things that they really can't embrace. But I don't think they figured that out yet. I think they're still getting their sea legs. And I expect you will see Democrats break from the party that is, don't give President Trump any wins, period. I think you're going to see Democrats break from that because as a nation, we just can't be on hold for 4 years. The pace of change and transformation is so fast. Our competitors certainly aren't standing still for the next 4 years. So we have to move forward. And I think there are enough Democrats who will hopefully see that. But as a party, as the institution, I think it's in deep trouble.
Yeah, and I think that they should realize how obvious it is that they've got a great potential president here willing to work with the other side. I mean, I really think maybe those around him are less so inclined, but Trump by personality, you're seeing it, how he's buddying up to Putin. A lot of people would, criticize that, but he's doing it, and he was ready to buddy up. He was buddying up to Zelensky, frankly, in that beating until it kind of went sideways. But, he wants to talk to the mullahs in Iran and get a deal there. All the Middle East he's talking to. So he likes to be seen as a deal maker. We all know that. And doing deals with Democrats, in my opinion, falls right in line with that. So I think the Democrats need to smarten up and go in and allow Trump to be deal maker and get some things that you want from him.
I agree. I mean, he is the president. And, so to move the country forward on any issue, on any level, on any piece of legislation, it has to be done in partnership with him. No doubt about it.
Yeah. And I mean, the primary issue I see with the Democrat Party is that the progressive left kind of hijacked the party, and they're starting to see attrition now that is finally taking hold. There's a lot of people that, they're Democrats their whole life. They supported the party their whole life. They see it kind of moving in a direction, but they don't really believe it. Frankly, they also don't hear that much about it. And I would like to talk about the news and the cable news networks, the silos that they are. But that's part of the problem, too, is they didn't really realize it. I know some that really woke up over the Israel situation, especially Jewish friends that were Democrats, and saw, wait a minute, what the heck is going on here? What is this rhetoric? Why aren't they just 100% in Israel's side? They couldn't understand that. So certain issues are causing them, I think the transgender issue may be another one that's causing some of them to kind of wake up and scratch their heads like, wait a minute, I'm not for boys playing girls sports, and my party has been, supporting that. So the progressive left dragged them there. They've been able to hang on, though, because it just takes time before people finally realize it and then are willing to give up on their team. I liken it to Chicago Cubs fans. They lose every year again and again, but they still have their fan base because people don't want to give up that loyalty. But we're starting to see now the cracks in it, I think.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. I think the left has captured the heart and brain of the Democratic Party, and that pains me greatly. As I said, I'm an independent, but I consider myself of the Clinton Democratic kind of legacy. And the core problem is they've allowed Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, AOC to define the problem and the solution that the entire party is organized around. I was a part of the Democratic Leadership Council that came to be before Bill Clinton's election. He was our chair and he ran. And I know firsthand, it's a very painful process to really bring the conflict inside a party that will help change the definition. People don't take kindly to the disruptors while they're disrupting. Everybody loves it on the other side. But essentially, you have a party oriented around the notion that the problem with the country is income inequality brought about by millionaires and billionaires and greedy corporations who don't pay their fair share. And the undertone of the Democratic Party is like, the fix is so in. Regular Americans have no chance to win. So government has to get more money from them to give it to everybody else. And I think that's inherently offensive to Americans. The true promise of the country and of the Democratic Party that I was a part of is a commitment to equality of opportunity. That's what we should be organizing towards, regardless of skin color or any other sort of, siloed identity. It really is, how do we, equip Americans and our children to compete and win in the 21st century? I don't even think that conversation has really begun in earnest.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful way of putting it. And I've been so concerned with the direction the Democrat Party has gone, even though I'm a Republican, that I've said before, and I think I believe this, that I would take a moderate, old school Democrat president over a Republican, just because I think it's so important to see that Democrat Party come back to the center, because it can be so destructive. That progressive movement, socialist movement, can be DEI and wokeness and so on, and controlling speech, censorship, and so on. That is a really dangerous road. I mean, be looking at people based on the color of their skin. I mean, that's Hitler kind of stuff. Jewish. It's just very dangerous road. And
well, I think also, you live in California. You know this as well as anyone. Single party rule, no matter the party, and this connects to your opening questions about President Trump. Single party rule usually doesn't play out in the best interest of the majority or the minority, frankly. All power needs a worthy opposition. It needs the push and pull to make the ideas and the vision better. And I agree with you. I think it worries me tremendously that the Democratic Party seems to be, at least at this moment, unwilling to really do the hard work to become a worthy opposition to what is a very popular president who's got some terrific ideas right now and is moving the country in a certain direction.
Yeah. Although, I mean, it's still very tight. I mean, it's essentially still 50-50,
It is, but I think Democrats have, conned themselves into thinking that his win wasn't as extraordinary as it was, considering where he was, with a third of his, probably 2/3 of his own party at some point, really hoping that he wasn't the nominee, to kind of make up all that ground and then encroach in a lot of the other voting populations. It was an extraordinary win, and I think Democrats have to understand that.
Mm-hmm. So, last question on the Democrat Party then, as we look forward 4 years, the big question is going to be, is this going to be 4 years and out as it was last time for Trump, or is it going to be J.D. Vance or DeSantis or something like that? And this is going to be a 12-year run for Republicans, which I'm praying for. But who do you see as you look in your crystal ball as potentially being the Democrat candidate who can bring it more in the direction that you're hoping for?
I think there are some promising Democrats on the horizon, mainly governors. But the question remains in my mind, who is willing to have the fight? Who is willing to call out the new chair of the Democratic Party who said there was nothing wrong with the Democrats' message in 2024? That is who I'm interested in seeing come along, because you could have competent governors, but if they're unwilling to really challenge what is clearly an unpopular opinion and worldview, then it doesn't matter. So what I'm waiting to see is who will bring the fight. And one thing I just want to mention here, the whole orientation of the Democratic Party currently, as I said, is around Bernie Sanders' theory of the case, but also their theory of winning is his, which is there are all of these people who don't vote. And if we just give them enough stuff, right? Free college and this and that and the other thing, they'll turn out to vote. Turns out that doesn't actually ever work. Okay, it didn't work for Bernie Sanders, by the way. I don't know why he's so successful in selling that strategy. And in fact, the Democratic Leadership Council, when it was first created, was all about challenging that very same defeated strategy and saying, instead of trying to get people who don't vote to vote for us, how about we talk to the people who do vote? And that is really, the kind of the roots of what we at No Labels are trying to do. We believe that there's 65% of the voting population who see, good and bad in both parties, who could kind of go either way. It's really, like maybe 20% in the Republican, the Independents, and 20% in the Democratic, and who want to have a different conversation in this country. And that is who we are giving voice to and trying to organize and quantify their political power in a way that's really never been done. So talk to people. So I want to see a candidate who's willing to bring conflict, have a fight with the Democrats. If I were advising a potential 2028 candidate, I would say, you're not running against Donald Trump. Don't even say his name. You are running against, first and foremost, the Democratic Party and the Democratic chair. If you can successfully win that argument and fight, then you can go on to challenge J.D. Vance or whomever it is. But and then who are you talking to? Who are your policies oriented to? People who don't vote, who are not part of society in paying taxes and engaging in voting, or those who do?
You've mentioned the chair a couple of times. Remind me, who is the chair? What is their background and their agenda?
Sadly, I haven't committed their name to memory, but I believe it was somebody out of the Democratic Workers' Party of Wisconsin. But the thing that stuck out to me as I was watching the election of the chair is that he basically doubled down and said there was nothing wrong with the message of the Democratic Party in 2024. They really think that the solution is getting their own Joe Rogan. That it's all about the delivery mechanisms of the message. And again, I think it's insulting to the voters, which they should probably stop doing, because it's not that we didn't understand their message. We got it loud and clear, and we voted against it.
Yeah. The anti-Trump thing worked for Biden, but then people saw 4 years of Biden and they're like, okay, the whole anti-Trump thing, Trump's now looking better than Biden, so that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
They definitely need to put that on the shelf.
But I'll just say, and last Friday was a classic example. I believe that President Trump is doing what he thinks is in the best interest of the country, but it is unsettling at times, and life is complicated, making your way in this, economy that looks nothing like our parents in terms of job security and the path to opportunity, raising kids in this society with all of the pressures. There's a lot going on. I don't really want to have to worry about my president and what's being said in the Oval Office. And, it just is, it's unsettling. So I wish President Trump would just, understand that there's a big swath of us, many of whom voted for him, who, just need a little more stability in the leadership in terms of, adhering to basic decorum, really.
Yeah, well, that's been requested for a long time,
I
and has
know,
kind
I
of
know. And he
fallen
has
at the
success doing it his way. So I understand why he doesn't change. But, it's like I got a lot to think about. I don't want to worry about, Putin and Ukraine and all of that too.
Yeah, no, I do think from a policy perspective, if it was somebody was just put in a white box and the thing and just looking at the policies, they would align. Most people would align with Trump's policies mostly. His personality is abrasive to a lot of people, and that's why they have trouble with it. So, but Trump is only another 4 years. Then it's going to be whoever's next. So you're not going to be able, again, as we said, you're not going to be able to run against Trump. You're not going to be able to run against his personality. You're going to have to run against the policies because it's going to be somebody like a J.D. Vance. And we don't know what his reputation will be at that time, but he certainly comes across far more level-headed in his delivery than Trump. If you look at that debate, if you recall, you guys, in fact, that's a good one for you. You probably really liked that debate between Vance and Walz, right?
Well, I wasn't, not that one so much. I mean, it was terrible and painful to watch, but we also appreciated the debate between Presidents Biden and Trump, because we had been saying for a long time that a majority of the country really wanted a third option, and they especially did not want President Biden to run for re-election. And for saying that out loud in Washington, D.C., we were attacked and vilified. I mean, the lengths that the Democrats went to try to silence us were really extraordinary. And yet we were just saying what everybody could see with their own eyes. And then when the debate happened, of course, we really all saw it. But, and that's the thing, the Democrats need to respect voters more and understand we are not I think they think that we can be duped, that we can be, talked down to, and that they can lead us that way. It's not true. They may not be New York Times reading, Harvard educated graduates, but a majority of voters are wise and they understand what's in their best interest. And I think if the Democratic Party works backwards from that, it'll be in a much better position.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. My only point is that JD Walz, they're very cordial to each other and shook hands and this and that. And I was thinking that's the type of dialogue that you guys are probably
exactly
looking for.
I mean, listen, President Trump's singular, so I agree with you. You can't really, there's not going to be anyone quite like him next. And so, yeah, we want people to be able to disagree like you have to do in real life, in your marriage, in your family, but still be able to sit down and have dinner together.
Yeah. Last question: the news silo. What are you guys working on in there as far as trying to get people, getting the same information from the same news source as opposed to having to go to CNN to get one story and Fox for another?
Yeah, I mean, we have a running product on Substack. It used to be in the Hill, now it's on Substack. 5 facts. We try to really stick to the facts and communicate to our network what we know to be true, because it's a complicated landscape out there. I do think shows like this and podcasting are the white light in the tunnel, because a longer conversation allows you to have a more truthful and honest and frankly nuanced discussion. And all of these issues are complicated and need that. So I think that there's hope there. But what do you think? You've been a part of the mainstream media. What do you see? Where's it going, and what's going to happen to legacy media?
I mean, Fox seems to be doing very well. I guess they don't consider that legacy media, right? They certainly don't consider themselves to be legacy media, but they're doing very well. But they are very much catering to one side, and I do have a strong preference for being able to go somewhere and feel like I'm truly getting both sides. For instance, the border issue, and there was a great ABC poll that just came out a couple of days ago where they talked about what are the important issues to both sides.
Mhm.
And for Democrats, racism was up extremely high, very low for Republicans. The border, very high for Republicans, very low for Democrats. And I'm just like, that's because they're getting two different stories of what's going on out there. Fox had a reporter at the border from day one of the Biden administration with drones flying overhead showing it. It took years before CNN had a reporter at the border or was showing that. So I would have conversations with people on the other side about, I go, man, what do you think about this border? Crazy, isn't it? They go, what are you talking about? What border? I mean, we can't, we're not even operating from the same set of facts. So for your purposes, the no labels purposes, that's kind of a starting point. We got to be at least operating from the same set of facts. I guess I would like to see all the networks, both Fox, CNN, MSNBC, being more in the middle, just like you're asking the parties to be.
Well, at least have some voices that can resist the pull of editorial comment, but it's very hard to find. I do like what Barry Weiss is doing with the free press. I think there's a lot of people who want what you and I want, which are some sources. It's fine to have some sources with the ideological bent. That's great. And then some that are just kind of just the facts. And I think there's a big market for that, and hopefully the industry will produce that type of product. I think, again, Barry Weiss and the Free Press, even though they have their own opinions on certain things, are trying to do that, as well as, like I said, these long form interviews in podcasts or streaming services, I think are really helpful as we try to sort everything out, because we are at the beginning of an entirely different conversation in this country, different issues, different challenges, different opportunities. And there's a lot we have to sort out. I mean, cryptocurrency, quantum computing, AI, space, and how that is now such a massive player in our nation's security. And we really need some sources that we can go to on these things to help us find our way. So I agree.
Right. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time, Holly.
Thank
Great learning more
you.
about no labels. I assume just go to your website for more information.
Yes, please. And we'd love to, if you want to learn more, Holly@nolabels.org, just send me an email.
All right. Let's do it again soon, Holly.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Holly Page from No Labels. Thank you for joining the Power Hour with Jim Breslo. We'll be back soon with another great interview. Take care, everyone.